All right. Well, welcome to the Energizing America podcast, where we talk all things energy, why we need it in our business, community, and life. Welcome to you, Luke. It's been one of the most interesting parts about being in the oil industry is these incredible people that one gets to meet. And these are folks from New York, they're from Arkansas, they're from Idaho,
Hmm.
they're from Washington, Florida, Arizona, it doesn't matter. I got one guy, one of our best instrument techs. He's from the Dominican Republic, and he
Hmm.
goes home every 8 weeks, right? These are incredible folks, and guess what? They're just like me, trying to make a living, trying to take
Yep.
care of their family, and do the best they can. And it turns out we all feel the same way. There's just all this noise around us. Like, shut that noise off. It's not doing you any good. You can't help the riot in Minneapolis. You can't help the shooting over in Fargo. There's nothing. All you can do is make sure that in your home you're instilling some values and reading with your children, playing in the yard, picking the corn, growing the garden, and doing those types of things that families were meant to do. So,
Yep.
as I think about that, what do you think about the folks in the oil field? Does that match your perception of who they are?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, especially at my current job, I work with some incredible talent from everywhere. But when I was working in the IBEW, we got electricians from everywhere, all across the country. I had an awesome mentor actually. I actually probably wouldn't be in my current role if it wasn't for one of my mentors from Washington. And he was kind of, we were working some pretty long hours and stuff. And he had actually mentioned to me in my early 20s, he said, Luke, if you keep up this oil field thing, you're going to wake up one day and you're going to be 30. And it's kind of what happened to me, honestly. I feel like this last 12 years has kind of just been like a blink for me, or like, snap of the fingers. And it's just, and it kind of coming full circle, to a couple of years ago with this whole book thing, I was kind of like, wow, like I've been doing this oil field thing and it's been awesome. Like it's been a great career. I've met some incredible people and stuff, but I kind of want to do a little bit more too, like I want to try to give back a little bit. And, like I don't know, I just feel incredibly blessed, honestly. And I'm pretty thankful every day for how my life has turned out. And not every day is going to be perfect and stuff, but I really feel like that's kind of the key to your happiness is always just being thankful for what you have because it's always nice to get a new pickup and stuff, but that isn't good enough. You're going to
Yeah,
kind of
well,
forget it. The leather is not going to smell that good for, forever and stuff. You know what I'm saying? But,
for sure. One, I think, as you'll find, well, you already have found this to some degree, but I sent my first son off to marriage 2 years ago.
oh,
All of a sudden, and it was just like I hit this big stop sign, like, wow, like this is the coolest day ever because
yeah,
everything
I'm
I've
sure it's
wished
incredible.
for, my son is embarking on, right? Like he found a nice wife that we loved, and he was an electrician, he was well established, like it's exactly what I wanted out of my child. But I found myself
Exactly.
like, whoops, did I forget to enjoy the journey along the way? Like, was I too focused to get to the stop sign and forgot to enjoy this nice ride? And thankfully, he doesn't have any ill feelings about anything. He had a nice childhood, according to him, and that's a cool thing about kids. They forgive and forget everything that went on, But I'm trying to make this like renewed commitment to my younger boys and girl that's still at home that I want them to I want to spend as much time as I can with them because it goes by quickly. And then that transcends into everything, all these little dreams and hopes we have. And uh what I wanted to ask was about success. And I think you kind of just wrapped it up there that what does success look like to Luke? Because people have asked me, like, what is succession or how'd you be successful or whatever? And I'm always like, okay, number one, you got to define what success is. I haven't been able to define that. I can't tell you I've been successful. I can tell you I feel lucky most every single day that I wake up. I got a beautiful wife. I got 9 beautiful kids. I'm a grandfather now. I got a job I absolutely love. I get to meet all these incredible people. So to me, success is just that, being content. But I
Hmm.
don't know. What about for you?
I'm a big MJ DeMarco fan. It's kind of a cheesy title, but Millionaire Fastlane is one of my favorite books of all time. He talks about the three F's: family, fitness, and freedom. And I feel like I have a great family, so I've got that. I should probably lose about 20 pounds, so I'm kind of working on the fitness, but ultimately the freedom of just kind of being able to do what you want, go on some trips and like not to be tied to a whole bunch of consumer debt and stuff. So that's kind of like my definition of success. And like in addition to that, I would say just doing what you feel like you're put here to do. And I do feel like that. So that's what I would say for somebody, but I really like MJ DeMarco and like how he says the three F's, because basically he says that any, money is not going to buy you happiness. It'll buy you comfort. It'll buy you a lot of things, and it can bring happiness, but ultimately it is going to be family, fitness, and freedom. Like you're not going to have wealth if you don't have health. Like if you ask a cancer patient what's most important to them, it's they're not going to say, that they want a Lamborghini. It's they're going to want more time on this earth. So
Yeah. And I think, so often, no doubt, as part of our journey in the oil industry, like we said, we meet incredible people all over, and some of those folks don't have an easy life. And the
right.
ones that seem to struggle the most are the ones who don't have a supportive family. And there's always so many sides and facets to it, right? Like um typically whoever you're talking to, it was the other person's fault that their marriage didn't work out or whatever. But I know for me, boy, without my wife over the last 21 years, I would have been totally a mess. And without my kids being understanding and being supportive of me arriving at dinner sometimes a little bit later than I should have, or having to rip down over to Newtown for an emergency meeting or whatever, then I wouldn't have a job that I love so much, right? Um, and
Mhm.
boy, that fitness piece. In the oil industry, you say you should lose 20 pounds. Well, I should lose 40. And I'm telling you, Luke, this morning, I told the guys last night, I said, we all got to go to bed. So we have an apartment in Watford, right? And I think so. What day is today? Thursday, Friday, right? So Wednesday morning, 4:30 in the morning, I woke up. I usually run a few days a week, and Wednesday morning is my running day. Well, we got to go to North Dakota Wednesday morning. So I get up at 4:15 in the morning. John picks me up at 4:45. We hit the road. We get to Watford City at 2 o'clock. So we hit a bunch of locations on the way home, and then you're up late. And I missed my run. And what are you going to do for dinner? You go out for dinner, right? You eat some nasty meal that you shouldn't probably eat that much. I never would at home. Mom makes me meat and potato. It's awesome. I eat just this nice portion, and she always puts a vegetable on there and everything, right? And
Yep.
so then you're going to bed, and it's like, guys, we got to go to bed because this guy's getting up in the morning and going for a run. And so, well, I got to go to my Williston office this morning. So I tell John, well, we'll have to leave at 6 to meet the guys at 7 at the shop. And all of a sudden I'm thinking, what? If we got to leave at 6, that means I got to go for my run at 5. In North Dakota, Western North Dakota, it's pitch black at 5 o'clock in the morning, right? So I'm searching around for a headlamp. You think I got a headlamp in this apartment? No, they're all at the shop. So, anyways, my alarm went off at 5 this morning, and I open the window and I look outside and I think, do you got it in you, man? And then I think, you have to. I absolutely have to go on this run. And as tired as I am, I run along the sidewalk in Watford City. People probably think I'm nuts. I don't care. Because you know as well as I do, then what happens? You go up to Williston, North Dakota, the day starts, and it just never ends. You're ripping from location to location to location, and all of a sudden you're like, man, I feel like I could snap somebody's neck. Oh, that's right, I'm starving. So what do? You stop at a gas station and they got some chicken and that's been sitting there for three
Really
days
healthy
or
stuff
whatever.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And you start
Yep.
eating, and then it's like, wow, this is a tough industry to be in and be healthy,
Well, that and you
you
got to
know?
fight the oil filled burritos. I know different oil companies I used to work for when I was a contractor. There was a guy that would come out every single day with like homemade burritos in his cooler, and it looks a lot better than your peanut butter sandwich that you got in your lunch. And yeah, you do that over 10 years. I mean, it's gonna be amazing if it doesn't affect your belt line. But
Right, exactly. And then that just it starts to drag you down. It's just like if your relationship at home isn't going all that well, it starts to drag you down. It's no different
yes,
physically. It just starts to drag you down. And
it's that
you're the only
instant
one who can change it. You got to
it's
get
that
out and
instant gratification, and I think that's what plagues a lot of people is, grit. I mean, good tasting food, I mean, it's pretty cheap. I mean, and that's, people go to that for comfort because they have problems at work, they have problems at home, and you do just have to fight all that cycle. I know for myself, when I'm in Killdeer, I drive by that Dairy Queen and I'm like, no, Luke, you got to keep driving. Like, you don't need that blizzard today.
keep going. And Nana's little cafe in Kildare, just a great little pit stop for lunch. And but same thing, you can't be eating all that all the time. So you try and do it in moderation. But I just think that's one of the challenges of being in the oil field is the physical
Yeah.
piece of it. Because we do a lot of driving. It is a lot of hours on the road. I don't know, maybe it's different. What is your typical day? A lot of driving?
Yeah, it's a lot of driving. I mean, most of the projects I've got going on are in Killdeer right now. So, I mean, they're probably a good 2.5 hours from my house. So, I mean, for some of them, it's like, if I drive down there and turn in the entrance and drive back home, that's 5 hours of my day right there. So,
Wow. So does your
yep,
wife pack you some carrots to nibble on to
yep,
help you out? That's
yep.
good.
If she thinks I'm getting a little too chunky, she'll put a few more in there.
Yeah. Well, I know some of our guys have said like they love to snack on cherries because it gives them a, they're chewing on a cherry and they got a pit to get rid of and whatever. It keeps them going during the day. So there's all
Yep.
kinds of little things you can do. But then so you talk about family and you talk about fitness and then you talk about freedom. And that must be kind of where this book stuff comes in too. Hey, is it possibly brings you some additional revenue in years to come to
Hmm.
bring some financial freedom. And I think, we have a 401k at work, Luke, and it bothers me so bad when people don't participate in that thing because I tell them so often, like, dude, you will be 40 before you know it. Like, I'm 40, and all of a sudden I'm 40. Like, today I was talking about my kids being at Laura Ingalls Wilder Park over in DeSmet, South Dakota, and I was like, man, it just puts me back 20 years ago. I was just there when I was a kid, and the driver of my truck is like, you'd have to go more than 20 years. Yeah, that's right. I'd have to go 30 years ago. Like, what just happened? And I've always been, I took a personal finance class when I was 19, and they said you should set up some financial goals. And so I did.
Oh, absolutely.
By the time I'm 40, here's what I want. And and thankfully I've been able to kind of be pretty consistent with them, had some challenges along the way, but I think that's just so untalked about that freedom of life. Like if all of those things are going in the right direction, everything else just starts to fall in place. You can be a happier dad. You can come home down the driveway and the boys come running out on the deck. You're just not as stressed out as a person who's got the nice pickup with the nice van and with fancy wheels, right? Like what good does that do you?
Oh yeah, I'm a huge personal finance nerd and stuff, and just having that 6 month emergency fund that they talk about, or just saving anything and just reading into that. I feel like it just gives you peace of mind that you're not, because I feel like a lot of people are just scared and like they don't want to look at their own finances, and you just can't do that. You have to, like you said, you have to set goals. Like I'm a huge goals person. Like I have personal goals, I have financial goals, I have relationship goals. I mean, and I'm an avid reviewer of them like every single week. So
That's awesome.
I'm a very big note taker. Like I fill up notebooks pretty fast. So
Does that help you in your job too? Do
oh,
you take it
absolutely.
there?
I don't know how I do it without it because I get to the office in the morning, and I don't know if you like Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank and stuff. And it kind of started when I first heard him talk about it on one of his podcasts. Was he had it was some business person he worked with, but and I do this religiously. Like he said that he writes on sticky notes like your top things like that you need to get done. The most important is at the top. You just start with that, and just the satisfaction of crossing that out. It almost just gives me like a rush to like get the rest of it done. Or like I don't know if you're a Brian Tracy fan, but he has some phenomenal personal finance books, and he talks about like if you have a problem, you write 20 solutions down or 20 things that you're going to do to make that better, and then you look at them and you might select three of them and you take action on them immediately. And so like that's kind of how I do a lot of problem solving. So like if you see my office, there's sticky notes and I got my notebook, and I kind of keep my more long-term stuff in my notebook, but like my daily task at the office, write down 10 things and just start hammering away at them. So
I
works
think I
pretty good
read
for me.
about that in the combo to your success and happiness about goals and financial things. That was also a great book you read, Luke. It was just a nice consistent or that you wrote nice consistent your concise book on just trying to get that combination done, that I liked that read. I still have it up at the cabin. I throw it out anytime someone's there. I put it in the guest room for them to read.
Oh,
So that
yeah, that was my first dive into personal development. And at some point in my life, I do want to I want to do more focused long form books like that. Just and I feel like a lot of the books that you read, they kind of says the same stuff, but I want to create something that genuinely helps people. That's like a tool. And that was kind of me, just like I was like I always wanted to do it, so I was like, well, I'll do this quick little read because I was actually inspired to do that book by this a kind of a similar book called It Works. And it's just a simple book that you can read in 15 minutes. If you ever want to check that one out, it's awesome. That one changed my life too. I mean, really good book. Just kind of the basics of that one was just like you are what you focus on and stuff. And it sounds so simple, but it just I don't know. Reading stuff like that sometimes just clicks with me really well.
Yeah, I would agree. It sounds simple, Luke, and it really is. And I think that's why so many of us struggle with it because we're looking for this big, complicated solution because in our head it's something so complicated. And it just isn't. The
It's
decision
just a process.
paralysis. Yeah, well, we paralyze ourselves because we're so overwhelmed with life. We don't know what to do. So we think, well, it must be a complicated solution because it's complicated in my head. When the reality is, oh, you got a Visa credit card that you're trying to get paid off. Write it down on a piece of paper and start working your tail off. When my wife and I got married, she openly tells everyone she was a financial ruins, and I wasn't much better. We were young. I was 19, she was
Oh yeah.
21. And we had debt. We had car payments. We went to college. I went to college. I graduated college. I don't know how much in debt. Well, it was tens of thousands. I want to say $15,000 in debt the first time I was done with school, not including
Mhm.
like the auto loans, right? And we owned a house and the kids are coming left and right, and we don't want to stop having kids. We love that part of our life, and we finally had to just like stop the bus, write every one of these things down, and no, even when my brother would come from the state of Washington home to visit, and all my siblings were going out for dinner, we would just tell them, why don't you guys stop over at our house for coffee after? You know how hard that was? But we had
Yeah.
to get so
Yeah.
sick and tired of that debt. And now for the last 10 years, we haven't had consumer debt. And I can't even begin to
You could just
explain how
breathe
awesome that.
and think
Yeah.
about how much of a better person you are now because of that. You're more
Well,
disciplined in everything, I'm sure.
and for one thing, Luke, the best part about doing it, the best part is you meet somebody who's struggling a little bit, and I can't say that I've given anything worth a crap to anybody, but just like at work, my decision making is so much easier. For example, we had a guy just in April at our quarterly safety meeting. He's there, he's healthy as a horse, attends a monthly safety or the quarterly safety meeting. The next day, as he's on his way, he gets home, his wife asks, what's wrong, your face is drooping. He has a massive stroke. Thankfully, just
Oh,
today I ran into him again, and he's fully back to work. He just can't get his left arm to move, but we've got a good program for him that he can be back working because he
that's
wasn't
so
doing well
wonderful.
on the disability. But the next day, one of the employees calls me and he says, Shane, we got to do something for Tim. I said, okay, here's the deal. You guys come up with some money, Wescom will match it. I couldn't do that if I don't have financial freedom at home. I
Right.
can't make that kind of a decision, right?
And doesn't
So
that feel awesome? I'm sure that's just, I'm sure that gives you such a, incredible, like, feeling that you can do that because there's a lot of people that just can't.
well, and it's not even me, right? It's like this incredible team of folks I get to work with. If they're gonna go do something, this is frankly their money. We got to do something as a team then, right? But I think
Right.
if I wasn't set at home, I would fall into this trap of what a lot of business owners do, and you start justifying all this stuff like I need millions in the bank because I have all this risk and this is stressful and no, no, shut up. It's actually not. You just go to work and do everything that like everyone else is doing. But if you set up your personal life okay, you can succeed at work. And back to the notebook thing too, when I was going to college, a bunch of kids at home and I'm doing some online school, I have never ever stopped. Same thing. I mean, I have it in me right now as I'm doing this podcast, a notebook because I'm writing down these author names, and I got guys who work for me. We go to our operations meetings and they walk in with a cute little tablet, and they got the little stylus and they're doing all these kind, and they think I'm nuts because I'm pulling out my notebook, but they all know I write down everything and then I say, well, last Monday you said you were going to X. How'd that go? No. How do you remember that? Well, I certainly don't, but I wrote it down right here and I don't think I made it up, right? So I love the notebook concept and having goals
I
about
do
it.
too. Do you ever feel like with your notebook too? I know like myself, like I'll get all these things in my head, work stuff, personal stuff going on. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna write this out, tackle one thing at a time. And just by even writing it out, you look at it for a second and you think, oh, well, this ain't so bad. Like I'll do this and I'll do this. Like I feel like it's such a great way to almost like offload stress off your head. That's a big thing for me. But
It's like marking an email as read, right?
yeah,
It leaves your brain. So what I tell our team that try and clear your brain space. Like brain space is such a valuable thing because folks will sometimes my team, I'm on the sales and marketing team, and I think they wish I wasn't because they'll tell me, "Where'd you come up with that crazy idea?" And I'll tell them, "I don't know, you guys. I was driving along the road, whatever. I left a location and I had this pop in, and they're like, how do you find the time to be thinking like that?" Well, I really don't, but I'll tell you what I do try to do is keep my head clear. Just get it out of there and preserve my brain space. With brain space, creativity can run, and then all of a sudden you're out doing more things driving yourself even further crazy, whatever the deal is. But I think there's a lot of truth in just getting out of your mind and getting it onto paper. What do you think the response you've received? You said you got some hate mail or bad comments on it, but on your authors and or on your authorship or your writing of all these books, overall, has the response been pretty positive?
Yes, it's been overwhelmingly positive compared to the negatives. I mean, I feel like no matter what you do in your life, there's always going to be somebody that's critical, or there's somebody that's just they're going to be hateful no matter what you do. So you kind of got to just blow that off. But yes, my family has been super supportive. I've got certain people that'll buy all my books too and stuff. And part of me, it's kind of like I kind of catch myself. It's like, wow, like somebody like likes the stuff I'm making, and I don't know, it's kind of a weird feeling sometimes, but it's pretty cool. It's pretty fulfilling.
Well, and here it's people you never get to meet, right? You just all you can see is how many copies are sold. I'm sure maybe you can see some of the purchasing names or whatever, but you just get to
Mhm.
see how many copies are sold. And to think like, hey, there's that many people reading about something I care about, the oil industry and the electrical trade and the like, and doing some, yeah, I can see why it would be very fulfilling. Luke, what is the favorite part about being a dad for you?
Um, I Being a dad's the best job I've ever had. Love my kids. I love everything. I mean, there's days where they're crazy and it's like, I just want you to go to bed. But I think just coming home like after a long day, like just the fact that they greet me and they're happy to see me, that just makes my whole world. Other than that, just playing with them in general, just seeing their goofy little minds work on stuff and just kind of figure things out and put pieces together. It's just awesome. I love them so much. I just want them to have a great life. I want to do everything I can to just try to put good people back into this world that we need right now.
Yeah, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon as far as needing good people in this world, you know. I stopped in Minot. I don't remember what day it was, and it's right around lunchtime, so I got a little lunch at a diner there. And there's this old grandpa there with it appeared like a teenage kid. And it comes time to pay. He was sitting right in the booth behind me. And the kid says, "Hey, Grandpa, I want to pay this time." And Grandpa says, "Absolutely not. I just so enjoy spending time with you. This is the least I can do." And the kid says, "Well, I enjoy being out here too." And he says, "No, you need to understand. I enjoy every minute I get to spend with you. And it doesn't matter what we're doing." And off they went. You know, it took the fine gentleman a little bit longer to get out of the seat, you know, and the kid was waiting for him at the door. And I told John, I said, "Man, what a grandpa. You know, like if you can if you can live your whole life like that, quit focusing on all the bad within people and what you want to change, but instead just enjoy the time you get with one another, whether it's, you know, at work with the relationships. I mean, think about all those dynamics at work, right? I went to a location today and one of the guys is like, "Oh, great. What are we going to hear about now?" Right. And you're like, "Man, Mike, I just want to stop and visit. I'm not here to like poke at you, you know." But I think that's our our initial reaction, right? Like, "Oh crap, the boss is here. Now what's he gonna do?" Right? And
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think that about with being a dad sometimes, that I can come down the driveway and the kids come ripping outside. They're excited most of the time to see dad, but maybe there's a bike in the way on the driveway, right? And you can feel yourself kind of like, "Oh man, move that blasted bike," you know? And then it's like, "Come on, they just want to spend time with you. You know, why don't you want to just spend time with them? Quit being so critical." So I've tried to think about that here it's a favorite part about being a dad. It's just being with the kids, right? And
yeah,
yet so often it's so easy for that critical mind to start creeping in, and it's like, "Nah, get out of here. I just want to enjoy my time." Because like I said, all of a sudden you're at that stop sign and you're staring at the kid and he's leaving your house. You know, and I know
yeah.
you work with some folks who've probably shared those kinds of experiences with you who are a little bit further along in their life journey.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like it just goes so fast. Just trying to do the best I can to soak in every moment, perfect or not, I guess.
Yeah. Have your mom and dad read your books?
Yep. Yep.
Are
They're
they,
always
do
super
they live,
supportive.
and
So,
they still live in the community?
yep. Yeah, they do.
Okay. And were they happy when you decided to become an electrician?
Yeah. My dad's actually an electrician. He's an electrical contractor. Still has his little business going on. My grandpa was actually an electrician too, and we all went to Wapaton, so we all went to the same tech school and stuff. So the apple didn't fall too far away from the tree, I guess.
I guess not. Generation after generation. It's awesome because we need as many people as we can out safely energizing America, in so many different ways that it happens. And I just hope that folks that are listening to this podcast can get a couple of things, about success and what it looks like and how you got to persevere through some challenges. You started with one book, end up with 13 different books on Amazon. You have dreams of having more, but it takes years to accomplish that. You got to power through a lot of different things all the while you're still taking care of your kids, but through it all you're telling a great story about not just the oil field but also blue collar workforce, and more importantly than even blue collar workforce is your definition of success or fulfillment of just doing what you're put on the earth to do. Like that's it's a fairly basic thing that gets lost in the noise of today. So I think if folks are after that, get on Amazon, and all you got to look up is Lucas Wurtz, and I hope I'm saying that last name right. Am I?
Yep, you are.
Okay, because I think I've asked you before, but WURTZ, and it's super easy on Amazon, folks, and you can get these different books, and I think like Luke, that I love reading to you, while the baby's in the womb. That's a great one. Bob the Big Pumper, Oscar the Little Pumper. Those are fun ones. Go to Bed Cricket is one of my kids is. But yeah, and I also think, Luke, thanks for sharing about. I've never heard about Brian Tracy, the author, so I'm gonna go look him up and
Oh,
download some of
he's
his.
got some phenomenal stuff. Yeah,
Awesome.
he's got quite the story of I mean, he literally worked his way from nothing. And I mean, he is a very, very successful author. And I honestly think the guy's probably got 50 books on self-development, and they're all really, really good. I haven't read them all, I guess, but the ones I have read are just awesome. I mean, everything from personal finance to leadership to, I mean, literally any sub niche. Or one of my favorites of his is called Eat That Frog, and it's a book about procrastination. And he says, kind of going back to the sticky note thing, when you if you have your sticky note of things like you want to tackle the biggest, in this case, ugliest frog, you want to eat that, get it out of the way. That's why the book's called Eat That Frog, and it's pretty entertaining.
For sure. Well, I'm sure you got to experience writer. What do they call it? Writer's block, where you sit down and you just can't. Nothing's coming,
Oh
and
yeah.
you're like trying to figure out what to do.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, or like I'll have an idea for a book and then I'll sit down and it's like, oh, well, how do I want to do that? I'm actually going through that right now. I've got kind of a simpler kids book. It's not going to have like a real deep meaning, but I'm trying to kind of work through the kinks in my head, and then some other ones that kind of been kicking around in my head. And it's just, some days like you'll have a great idea and then you write it down and you'll write half the book and then you don't look at it for another couple of weeks or something. So
Yeah. Well, I think over it all, just like everything in life, if you want a good ending, you got to work hard at it every single day. It's not easy work, right? But it also doesn't have to be super, super difficult. It's hard, but it's not difficult. And the hard part for me has always been consistency, just to stay consistent at trying to march towards the end of it. So I just Luke, again, it's an honor to know you as an individual. It's been great to know you as an author and read your good material, and now this podcast was great, and I hope our listeners can get some good takeaways. And number one, get on Amazon and get those books because you will not be disappointed. So thanks for taking the time to chat with us tonight. I greatly appreciate it.
yeah, thanks, Shane. I mean, I think you're doing great things. You got an incredible company, and look forward to working with you in the future.
Yeah, awesome.